There you go. Yep. You too, Parma. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye. Good evening, everyone. We appreciate this opportunity and this time to get the Housing Committee back on track and meeting with everyone. I want to appreciate our chair, Lady Spalter, for joining us on tonight. I see a representative from our fire department with us, Michael Kozo. Lee Chong, she's back with us. And of course, our committee members, Tracy Pardo and Julie Reyes. Just appreciate each and every one of you for coming on this evening. We're not going to take too much time, maybe about another 2 minutes before we get started. I'm not going to hold you guys long this evening, but there are some things that we need to cover, particularly with the events of these past couple of weeks. So it's important that we try to get on track with certain things. That's the reason why I asked a representative from the fire department to join us on this evening. Hopefully, I also requested for management from Marble Hill, along with the Tenant Association President, Tony Edwards, to join us this evening as well. So hopefully they will be able to join us shortly. So we just need another minute or so. Oh, hello, how are you?
Hi, I'm with the Assistant Super, Mr. Manning.
Pleasure, thanks so much for joining us.
Can you see us?
I didn't know who the number was. There's no video, it's just the phone number here.
Oh, okay, I'm trying to get on the video.
Okay.
All right, let me try again.
Hi, Ted. It's Margaret Della. Happy New Year.
Hey, Margaret. Happy New Year. Good to see you.
Good to see you, too.
The whole team is here.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Yeah.
We're missing a couple of pieces, but we're getting there. Ms. Fry, who do you have with you again?
The Assistant Super, Bernard Manning.
Thank you. All right, well, we're going to get started. It's 7:05, so we're going to call this meeting to order. I've already done a slight roll call of our members. We have Ms. Reyes here with us on tonight, Julie Reyes. We have Tracy Pardo with us and Margaret Della with us. And I don't see any other committee members logged in, but hopefully they will join us during our meeting. There were no minutes from December. I'd like to thank Chair Lady Spalter, Pablo, Sierra for their assistance. For those of you that don't know, I dealt with a serious bout of COVID-19, and I was literally on my back for a little over 2 weeks. Thankfully, I'm on the mend, getting my strength back, because for several days I was not able to walk. So it's going to take a little time, capture the legs back, capture the breathing back like it was. But I want to appreciate each and every one of you that were patient with me during that process, especially, like I said, our Chair Lady Spalter, who definitely took the reins for me in certain areas in housing and assisted me without faulting. So I want to say special thanks to her. As far as the chairman's report, it's just I'm going to ask when you join to please mute yourself. Winfred Campbell, could you please mute yourself? All right, here. As far as the chair's report, not so much a report, but I do want to extend this board's condolences to the family of Officer Rivera, a 22-year-old police officer that was killed in the line of duty, serving the people of New York. And we are yet extending our prayers and well wishes to Officer Mora as he fights for his life. And we want to underscore the need for safety in our cities, in our housing developments, in our apartment buildings. We want to make sure that we do all we can and to hold the police department to task, to hold tenants to task, and our neighbors to task for being responsible for the safety of our cities. We also want to, I just want to keep you up to date. We were dealing with a situation with the homeless shelter there on 262nd Street. Like I said before, along with Shirley Spalter, Chuck Merdler, they have been on the wall in that area. So we will continue to work closely with them in any areas that we can to facilitate what we can in regards to that facility opening up or not. So like I said, I don't want to belabor the time, but I would like to have our FDNY representative to come before us. Mr. Kozo, as you know, there was a tremendous loss of life in the Bronx just a few weeks ago that could have been prevented with just some precaution. So I would like Mr. Kozo to come to speak to us just to underscore the importance of certain things and certain steps we should follow in case there is a fire, and also to open the floor to any questions that you might have of him. Mr. Kozo?
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you. Appreciate you for coming.
Absolutely. My name is Mike Kozo. I'm the director of the FDNY's Fire Safety Education Unit. Yeah, just to go over a few things. I mean, our typical presentation usually lasts around an hour. I know that we don't have that kind of time. So if you do need us to do presentations a little bit more specific, maybe for your building, or you have a community board or something like that, anything else, we can always come. We do schools and everything else. So you can always request us. Just visit fdnysmart.org and you can request our unit to show up and do presentations.
If you wanted to, you can definitely take, about a half hour or so,
Okay.
to do what you need. Because this particular area, I don't really want to rush. There's not a whole lot left after you do your presentation. So if you want to take about a half an hour, 40 minutes, to do what you need to do, because to me, this is something that's very important for us to talk about and to hear any questions that need to be asked. We definitely need to talk about this to try to prevent this loss of life.
Okay. So what we'll start with a little bit of a prevention, right? Before we start getting into what we're going to do if we have a fire, let's get into just trying to avoid having the fire altogether. One of the most common causes of fires we're seeing right now is cooking, unattended cooking. People are starting to cook in their kitchens and then they're walking away from the food. I understand that we're trying to multitask. We're trying to do a lot of things at the same time. Unfortunately, cooking can't be one of those things that we're trying to multitask, right? Stand by your pan is what we always say, that you should be staying in the kitchen while your food is cooking. All it takes is for you to walk away for a few seconds and for that food to catch fire, and that's it. It's going to be too late by the time you come back in and realize it. You only have about 30 to 45 seconds to put that fire out before it's beyond your control. And if you're not in the kitchen at the time, chances are you're not going to have the time to put it out. So unattended cooking, we want to make sure that we are staying in the kitchen while we're cooking. We should be keeping our children away from the kitchen while we are cooking. A few things you want to have on hand when you're cooking. You want to have a pot, oven mitt on hand. You want to have some baking soda, and you want to have the lid to the pan that you're cooking in. If we have a grease fire of some sort, we know that we should not be putting water on that grease fire. It's just going to aggravate the fire. It's going to make it worse. So a couple things we can do. You can cover the entire pan in baking soda and then put the lid on top. By doing this, you're going to smother that fire. You're going to take away the oxygen. What you don't want to do is take the lid off after about 2 minutes because you're curious to see if it's actually going out or not, because that fire is going to come shooting back at you. It's what you're doing is you're introducing oxygen back to that fire again, which is what it's missing. So you want to make sure that you give it no less than 5 minutes in order for that fire to go out and for that oxygen to come out of that fire completely. Shut the heat to the stove, try and move that pan off of the hot burner if you can so nothing keeps heating underneath. Definitely something we want to keep in mind as far as the kitchen. Also, what we're wearing is seems to be a little bit of an issue, especially with the elderly population. According to the fire marshals, we're seeing a lot of people lighting themselves on fire with the clothes that they're wearing when they are cooking. I understand, the elderly, they tend to get cold. They're wearing the baggy clothes, the heavy, heavy robes and stuff like that, the baggy sweatshirts. You have to make sure that when you're cooking, that you have a tight-fitted clothing, roll up your sleeves, stuff like that, so that your clothes aren't dangling over the stove as you're cooking, because that's actually what is happening, and they're actually catching fire. So definitely want to be careful of that. Another thing we are seeing is electrical fires. Electrical fires seem to be big, and especially now over the winter, we see an influx in fires in general, but specifically electrical fires. Why is that? Because people are resorting to a lot of things now that they may not be using throughout the year, specifically space heaters being one of the most popular things that we're using. So there's a few things we want to keep in mind in terms of safety with electrical items. Any item that heats or cools has to be plugged directly into the wall. So what are we talking about? We're talking about your refrigerator, your microwave, your toaster oven, a space heater, an air conditioner. If it heats something or it cools something, it should be plugged directly into the wall. No power strips, no surge suppressors, none of that. Directly into the wall. What we tend to see is a lot of people relying on power strips and surge suppressors a lot, right? I'm sure there's not one person on here that doesn't have a power strip in their home, including myself. And I understand, right? When these buildings were built, we didn't need to plug so many things in back then. Now, everything we use requires electricity. It needs to be charged. It needs to be plugged in. It all needs power. The problem is we still have the same amount of plugs that we had back then when the building was built. So people are resorting to these power strips a lot. Not a problem, provided they're using them properly. So again, any item that heats or cools should not be plugged into these power strips. It has to be plugged directly into the wall. So what are the power strips good for? The power strips are good for small or low voltage items, such as your TV, a computer, an alarm clock, a lamp, things like that, or what you should be using that for, to charge your phone, things like that. But again, the misconception with a lot of people is that if I use this power strip, I now have 6 plugs, 8 plugs, 12 plugs. I've seen these things with 16 plugs on them. You are not getting more power than you would already get if you only use the 2 plugs in the wall. You're still getting the same amount of power if you only use the 2 plugs. The only thing you're doing is giving yourself more access to the outlet. That's all you're doing. So just keep that in mind. If that power strip keeps tripping, it's tripping because you're trying to take too much power than it actually has to give you. So obviously something at that point has to give. You have to unplug something. We also see a lot of piggybacking. People are plugging power strips into power strips. Again, bad idea. Again, you're getting the same amount of powers if you only use the 2 plugs on the wall. So keep that in mind. The other thing we're seeing is that people are breaking the prongs off. On 3-prong plugs, they're breaking the prong off so that they can plug it in because they only have a 2-prong outlet, not a 3-prong. Again, you're bypassing a ground. You don't want to do that. You want to make sure that you go out and you buy an adapter that will allow you to adapt a 3-prong to a 2-prong plug. Okay. When you're using a space heater, a few things we have to keep in mind. Space heaters need space. 3 feet around a space heater should be free of anything that can burn. Okay. A space heater should be plugged in and run while we're still awake. We want to warm up the room that we're going to sleep in while we're awake. Once we go to sleep, we should be turning off and unplugging the space heater. It should not be running all night long while we're asleep. Also, it's an item that heats, so it has to be plugged directly into the wall, right? What we're seeing a lot of times is people have them blowing directly on top of them while they're laying in bed because they want that heat as close as possible to them. The problem is if you fall asleep while this is going on, you toss and turn in the middle of the night, that comforter falls over, it lands on top of the space heater, and here's our problem. So you want to make sure that we're shutting it off, unplugging it when we go to sleep, that we're keeping it free of anything that can burn from 3 feet around it. Also, when you're going to buy one, you want to make sure that you look for the UL label or ETL, any kind of reputable company that inspects these items. They're going to put their stamp on it and say that it's safe to use. So I would not buy any kind of item like that that doesn't have the UL label on it. Also, you want to buy one that has an automatic shut-off feature to it. Should the space heater tip over by mistake, it will automatically shut itself off. You don't want that space heater running all night long if it's tipped over, or you're in another room while you're heating this room and this thing falls over and it just keeps running. So look for that automatic shut-off feature as well. Again, no extension cords with these items. They heat something, they have to be plugged directly into the wall. Okay, so that's what we have with space heaters. One of the most important things we can have in our home is working smoke and CO alarms, and we can't stress that enough. Your chances of dying in a fire are increased by 50% by not having working smoke and carbon monoxide alarms. That is a huge number, and for something so minimal, it's just not worth it to me. 70% of the people that are dying in fires today do not have a working smoke and carbon monoxide alarm, which is an extremely high number, and something that we need to remedy, right? So you should have a smoke and carbon monoxide combo alarm on every level of your home, usually in the common hallway that leads to your bedrooms, and you should have a smoke-only alarm in every bedroom. That is what the NFPA calls for, and that's what we recommend. That's what we want to see. You should be testing your alarm once a month. They came out with new smoke alarms now. They're 10-year sealed alarms. You no longer have to worry about changing the battery, okay? You can't take out the battery. The battery is sealed within the alarm. It's a lithium-ion battery. It's good for up to 10 years. Any smoke alarm being sold on the market today cannot be a replaceable battery alarm. It has to be a sealed 10-year alarm. So if you have the older battery operated alarms where you're replacing the battery, we do recommend that you try and upgrade to a 10-year sealed alarm. If the alarm goes off for some reason, you're cooking and you know that there's nothing happening, you can just press the silence button, right? What we used to do, what my mother used to do, was she would just take the alarm and take the battery out. A lot of people were not putting the batteries back in, right? And that was the problem, okay? So, and I'm skipping a little step just to save time without making fun of my mother, but in all honesty, what she used to do when I was sitting there in the kitchen, she was cooking, the alarm would go off and she would take her little kitchen towel and she would start waving at the smoke alarm like crazy, right? Trying to silence the alarm, and that would never work. So my mother was short, so she would take her little step stool, she would climb up her step stool and she would take the alarm down and take the battery out. She did it all the time. But the problem was people weren't putting the batteries back in the alarms. So we have these 10-year sealed alarms now. Any type of alarm that you have is only good for 10 years, regardless of whether the battery operated, you're not changing the battery, whatever it may be. The alarm itself, the mechanisms inside the alarm are only good for up to 10 years. So you should be replacing those alarms anyway. Carbon monoxide alarms, not the same law with them. They could still be the changeable battery operated alarms. But again, you want to make sure that you do have them in your home, right? We all know that carbon monoxide is a silent killer. We cannot see it, smell it, hear it, taste it. We have no idea that it's there other than the fact that that alarm is going off. So make sure that you have working carbon monoxide alarms. We should be testing these alarms once a month. Once a month. Not much, right? It's not a big ask. You're testing it 12 times a year. No big deal. You press the test button, it goes off for about 30 seconds or so, and then that's it. It shuts itself off and that's it. It's no problem. Also, you have to know the sounds of the alarm. What does it mean, right? Because if you have a combination alarm for smoke and carbon monoxide, it's going to make one set of noises for smoke or fire and another set of noises for carbon monoxide, and you need to know the difference, all right? So 3 long beeps is for smoke or fire. 4 quick chirps is for carbon monoxide, okay? you may hear one chirp every 30 to 60 seconds, right? And what is that telling you? That's telling you that either the battery is dying and the alarm needs to be replaced, or there's a malfunction in the alarm. And again, the alarm needs to be replaced. Typically, the alarm needs to be replaced at 2 o'clock in the morning, right? You wake up, you freak out because you hear the thing beeping, right? It never beeps. The battery doesn't die at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Of course not. It's going to die while you're sleeping in the middle of the night. Just keep in mind that that's telling you that the alarm does need to be replaced. Go out, get a new alarm, and then take the old one down, put the new one up. But again, having working smoke and CO alarms saves lives. Now, what's the other thing? Knowing the type of building you live in, right? Because we need to have an escape plan, but you need to know the type of building you live in, because that is going to determine how you're going to get out of your home in a fire. So what are the two main types of buildings we're talking about? We're talking about fireproof and non-fireproof. Fireproof buildings, there's no set specific way of knowing just by the number of floors, right? There are high-rise fireproof buildings, there are low-rise fireproof buildings. So that's not really the way to tell. It will be posted in the lobby or in the common area of the building if it is fireproof or non-fireproof. And it will also be available on the Department of Buildings website. If you punch in the address, it will tell you the type of building that you live in. Typically, this is not a set rule, but typically if you have fire escapes, it's a non-fireproof. If you don't see fire escapes, it's usually a fireproof. There are a few exceptions to the rules, okay? Now, what do? If you live in a non-fireproof building and the fire is in your apartment, you're gonna get out. No-brainer, right? Get out, close the door behind you. Got to make sure that the door closes behind you, okay? The more you isolate that fire, the better it's going to be for everybody. If you could isolate the fire by closing the door to, let's just say the fire's in the bedroom, you close the door to the bedroom, you close the door to the apartment, you are further isolating that fire, making it a lot easier for people to escape the building and a lot easier for first responders to get into the building. So definitely make sure you close the door. So again, non-fireproof, fire's in your apartment, get out, close the door. If the fire is not in your apartment, get out, right? It's a non-fireproof building. The fire will spread from one apartment to the next by different ways, ducts and other ways that fire can spread out of that apartment and get into other apartments. So non-fireproof building, no matter where the fire is, you have to get out. And that's what we saw in that fire back in 2017 in the Bronx, right? 13 people lost their lives. That was a non-fireproof building. And most people were found in the staircase and in the hallways, right? Similar to this other fire, which is where we found a lot of people, except this was a fireproof building. So the fire in 2017, that apartment door was left open. Everybody was trying to escape the building. The apartment door was left open. The hallways and staircases were contaminated with smoke and heat. And as people were trying to escape, they were running into this and passing out. So again, closing that door is very, very important. Now, fireproof building. If the fire is in your apartment, get out, close the door behind you. Again, isolate that fire. This is where everything changes. If the fire is not in your apartment in a fireproof building, it is usually safer to stay inside your apartment rather than enter this hallway where you don't know if the person left the door open, if they closed the door, if there's smoke in the hallway, if there's smoke in the staircase. You don't know what's happening, right? A lot of times, this building was a 19-story building. The fire was on the second, third floor, right? Typically, people on the 18th floor, if that door was closed, would not even know that there was a fire in the building. They'd probably have no idea that something was even happening. And that's because the building is doing what it was designed to do. The building is made of either concrete or cement or anything. All four walls, floor, and ceiling are going to be made of that material. And the building is made to contain the fire within the portion of the building that it started in. So with the door being closed, that fire will remain inside that apartment. So if fire's not in your apartment, stay inside your apartment. Maybe you see some smoke coming in underneath the door, take a damp towel, throw it underneath the door. Maybe throw some duct tape around the door frame if you want. If you see some smoke coming in, cover up the vents. If you have any smoke coming in through the vents, open up the window just to make sure that you're getting some fresh air, unless you're getting smoke coming in from outside and it's coming in your window, then keep your windows closed, okay? Other than that, you're safe inside your apartment. If you feel nervous or maybe you see a little bit of smoke coming in your apartment, call 911. Don't be afraid to call 911. Tell us you're in the building, whatever apartment you're in. We'll know that that building has a fire in it, and we will ask you a couple of questions, and then we will send people to your apartment to check up and make sure everything's okay. If we feel the need to evacuate you, we will evacuate you at that time. Otherwise, we will just tell you to remain in place, stay in your apartment, you're safe there. The problem is a lot of people just don't get it, right? They can't comprehend this concept. And you have to see the faces every time we do these presentations. People will look at us and they say, so wait a second, are you telling me that if there's a fire in my building, you want me to stay in my apartment? Right? And that it's almost counterintuitive, but in all honesty, yes, that's exactly what we want you to do. Stay inside your apartment in a fireproof building. Okay. Does anybody know how many people were found deceased inside their apartments in this recent fire where 17 people lost their lives? Lee?
I dare to say zero.
Zero.
That's
They were
right,
found in
zero.
the Stairwells.
That's right. They were found in the stairwells and the hallways, right? Again, the apartment door was left open. What happened was everything came out of the apartment and contaminated the staircase. Once somebody opened up, contaminated the hallway. Once somebody opened up the staircase door, everything rushed into the staircase and went straight up the building. And as people were opening the staircase doors, they were allowing that smoke to contaminate that floor. And that's exactly what was happening, right? So the person on the 19th floor had no idea that there was that amount of smoke in the staircase until they opened up that door, right? Again, stay inside your apartment, okay? Have your escape plan. And this escape plan is based on that type of building that you live in. And if you are going to get out, have a meeting place with everybody in your house. We should all be meeting at the same place, because in the middle of this chaos, you may go out one way, they may go out another way. And everybody's sitting there wondering if they got out. Did they get out? I don't know if they got out. He was in there. I don't know if he's still there, right? If we all meet at the same place, we know that everybody is out safe and we're not sending anybody in there looking for somebody that's not actually in there, right? So make sure that you have that meeting place. Very, very important that we have that meeting place. Very important that we close that door behind us when we leave our apartment if there is a fire in it, okay? So these are just some of the things that we did see in this recent fire and in other fires, right? We see it time and time again, and we keep trying to get that word out there in terms of what to do. And I understand, I get it that, you know, I can sit here and tell you this stuff and you may be comprehending everything I'm saying. And the second you have a fire, panic sets in, it's chaos, and you completely forget everything that we're talking about. And I can understand it, but we just need to try and get into that habit, right? Every time we leave our apartments, we close the door behind us. Every time we do it, right? So again, just certain things that we want to practice, go over with everybody in our homes, have that plan. We ask children all the time. We go into schools all the time when we do these presentations, and we ask the children, do you know how to get out of the school if there's a fire? Of course they do, right? The alarms go off and they line up like little robots. They line up, they go down the same hallway, down the same staircase, they meet outside in the same place. We ask them the same question. Do you know how to get out of your home in a fire? And you get that blank stare, like, I'm not really sure, but I guess I'll figure it out kind of thing, right? Shouldn't be that way. They should know exactly how to get out of their home just as much as they know how to get out of their school. We should be practicing this at home time and time again. So definitely something that we want to reinforce with our children as well. So those are just a lot of the big topics that I know that we have been seeing lately. So I will leave a few minutes for some questions. Lee, you got a question?
I have two. Well, actually, it's a combination. In a multiple dwelling, whether it's a rental or a co-op, who's responsible for ensuring that there's a working fire alarm and, you know, carbon monoxide and the self-closing doors?
So there's a difference, right, with a rental and a co-op and a condo. Some of them are owned, some of them are, you know, you don't own it. So it is the owner's responsibility to provide you with the smoke and CO alarms, right? However, your responsibility to maintain it, right? The owner's not going to come in and test the alarm once a month. The owner's not going to come in and change the battery every 6 months. Typically, that's not going to happen. So it is your responsibility to maintain the alarm. My opinion personally is it's your life, right? It's your life. You should be taking care of this alarm. You should make sure that these alarms are working properly at the end of the day, because they are protecting you. As far as the doors, again, if you're renting in a NYCHA building, something like that, it is the owner's responsibility to maintain these doors. Now, they may not know that the door is broken, or that the spring is broken or anything like that if there's been no mention of it to them. So if you do notice that your door is not operating properly or something is wrong, you need to bring it to their attention immediately and make sure that it is addressed immediately. Okay. I can't imagine, I'm not going to speak on it, but I can't imagine that the first time that door didn't self-close was that day, right? My thought is that door was not self-closing for a while. So again, I don't know whether there were some complaints or requests put in to have the door fixed or not. I believe that there are a lot of things that are under investigation still in regards to what happened at that fire. So again, it is, if you're renting, it is their responsibility, the owner's responsibility, but it does have to be brought to their attention.
So in essence, it's the owner regardless of whether it's a true rental like the Twin Parks Northwest or a co-op. 'Cause
So
the
a
board of
co-
directors would be responsible.
Correct.
Okay.
See, but now I live in a co-op, but these are individual units, and it is my responsibility to make sure that everything is working properly. The co-op itself is responsible for certain things, but not others. And I do believe that kind of does vary depending on the co-op.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. We have any other questions?
You did a good job, Michael.
I appreciate it. I tried to keep it within the half an hour range with a little room for some questions. It is a lot of stuff to go over. We are out there every day. I mean, we're going into schools every day. We're doing virtuals every day. Unfortunately, as a result of something like this, we do get an influx of requests right now. I just hope that interest and influx of requests and interest in fire safety doesn't diminish in time. I'm really hoping that it does remain this way so that we can continue to get that word out as much as possible.
Michael,
Again,
is there a pamphlet?
I'm sorry?
Is there a pamphlet that FDNY produces that they can give out to residents?
Yes, there are pamphlets out on the FDNY Smart website. There is
Okay.
also on that FDNY Smart website, let me see if I can put it up there. Let's see. In addition to that, I'll put it up in the chat. In addition to the pamphlets, there is literature on each specific topic that we're going over tonight. Everything on that website is downloadable in over, I gotta say, at least over 50 different languages. There are videos that you could watch, 5-minute videos on electrical safety, on kitchen safety. There's podcasts, there's literature, a booklet that will summarize all the things we went over. So everything, there's activity books for the children, and we are constantly upgrading that website and adding things to it. So definitely a website worth taking a look at.
Great.
Lucky for you, a lot of the videos do feature yours truly, so you'll get to hear me even more.
We don't have a chat.
I was gonna say, I don't see a chat. I thought it was me.
forgot.
I
Ted,
thought it
why
was me.
don't we have a chat?
Yeah, the chat feature is disabled whenever we have our meetings.
All right, so
But what you can do is send your information to the office, and then we
Okay.
can disseminate it for you.
the website is actually right behind me. It's fdnysmart.org.
Oh, okay.
You can request presentations on that website. You can access all of the information on that website. Everything can be done through that website.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We have a question?
I don't know if
Tony,
there are
question? I'm not sure.
any other questions or requests, because this indeed is very important. I would like to issue a personal thank you to Michael for coming. The fire department, they are a special breed of men, and they put their lives on the line every time they go out to answer the call for a fire. Just coming home this evening, I hear that in Baltimore, 3 firefighters lost their lives. So it's important that we thank our firefighters as well as our police officers, our first responders that daily put their lives on the line to protect the people of their respective cities. I do believe I saw a hand being raised.
I think the Riverdale Press housing reporter had his hand raised.
Yes, Joseph, you had a question. You can unmute yourself.
Hey, how's it going? Yeah, I was actually just curious to know, with respects to, I know someone here had asked about whether the responsibility was on the building for co-ops, to have those doors fixed. Do we know about how many of these buildings, at least citywide, have like these issues with respects to the closing doors, or is that something that's just, we don't have any data on specifically?
I personally don't have any data on that. I'm not really sure who would have that kind of data.
Is it
That
DOB
definitely-
or HPD?
Probably, right? DOB, I would think.
DOB or HPD, I don't know who does that. I used to work at HPD, that's why I know this stuff.
Oh, okay, excellent, excellent. Yeah, I'm looking into just seeing how that works as far as the data is being maintained with the city.
Right.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of that question that he just asked, is there like a grandfathering type of situation where if a building was built, before a certain year, that they're not required to have these doors that self-close, or is that just now, something that's now done across the board in the city?
Right, go ahead, Lee. You have. Did Lee had your hand?
I was gonna say that in, I think it was 2017, the New York City Council passed a law that said all buildings by July of 2021 had to have each apartment door self-closing,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
So
They-
it
they-
was
they
the
should-
responsibility of the owner. However, I think the oversight was lacking.
Right,
between
yeah, I'm not
DOB
sure
and
how well the
HPD.
enforcement went, right.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how well the enforcement went, but it did, that did go through. Now, whether they were done or not, or whether the mechanisms themselves are failing, or whether people are disabling the springs themselves, that is another question. We have seen people disable the doors themselves, and we have seen the mechanisms fail and wear out over time. So there are a lot of things that go on with these doors constantly.
Okay. Well, Michael, like I said, I want to thank you once again. Oh, Davey, you have another question?
Yeah, just a quick one. I know, Michael, Lieutenant, I know the 2017 fire, it was determined that the apartment door was propped open. Have they determined whether in the fire 10 days ago, whether it was propped open or whether the self-closing mechanism was not working or what?
I have not heard anything about the door being propped open in this one, but again, everything is still under investigation and the
Okay.
marshals have not released any information, and I would assume that they're not going to until they have all of the information.
Fair enough. I don't want you to speak out of, out of school, so to speak.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Because just my experience is that those door closers are very heavy and rarely fail.
Right,
And getting back to the requirement, I know when I lived in a brownstone on the Upper West Side, the building had been renovated 40 years ago or 50 years ago. And back then, this old brownstone had self-closing doors. So I
Right.
think that's been the law for generations, actually.
yep,
And,
Absolutely.
not just 10 years, say.
right. And I think the whole point there was to try and really enforce it at that time, at that point. But again, I'm not sure how well the enforcement was followed up. To be honest, I'm not sure. I don't think that was really with us as far as the enforcement goes, but I think that was the whole point at that time.
And in a case like this, could landlords or property owners or even tenants face any type of criminal charges or any type of repercussions for not closing the door, or maybe for propping the door open, or having it where there has not been any inspections or fixing of doors?
There can be. I mean, all of these buildings are on inspection lists. They are inspected. We cannot inspect, as a fire department, we can only inspect common areas. We can't inspect private residents, right? So we can inspect the basement, the boiler, the roof, things like that. Private residents, we can't inspect. So my thought, and Lee, help me out here, maybe, would be the Department of Buildings or HPD that would be the enforcement agency on these issues. And yes, if it is brought to their attention and they go and inspect, my guess would be that they would be writing violation orders to the building.
And I think they have X number of days to remedy it, and
correct
then they
the
get a
issue.
fine, and it keeps adding on. But I think both city agencies are reactive. They're not proactive. They don't do what you guys do, which is do the annual inspections to the public areas. They don't go and check out every door and check
Right.
out every smoke detector to see it's working. It's only
Right.
if a tenant complains.
That's typically the way it goes, yeah.
Right.
Wow. Well, once again, we want to thank you, Michael, for coming on to our meeting tonight. And this was extremely informative. You know, it's important that we keep abreast of fire safety here in New York, because as you can see, one lapse of judgment, one small leaving a door open can lead to a countless loss of lives. So we want to thank you again for serving the people of the city. We hope and pray that you remain safe as you go out every day, and that your brothers and sisters on the line, they stay safe as well. Thank you again, and we definitely look forward to hearing from you again.
Thank you. You definitely will. Tony, I didn't know if Tony had a question. I know he had his hands up.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Thank you for taking my question. My question is, and you may have said this earlier, excuse me, I'm just getting over COVID, so that's why I have a hoarse voice. My question pertains to staircase doors. They should close automatically, right?
Correct.
Okay, I just want to be sure about that.
Correct. The staircase doors should close automatically. They should not be propped open. Same with the hallway doors. If you have fire doors in the hallway, those shouldn't be propped open, and we typically see those propped open quite often.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so if we have any other questions, you can always reach out. You can shoot me an email. And again, I do hope that, that everybody requests us in the future and that we can continue educating everybody. We will come to buildings and do, a meeting for all the tenants if you want, whatever, however you want to do it.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you so
very
much.
welcome. You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, take care. Stay safe, everybody.
Take care. You the same.
Thank you.
Yes, we appreciate the men and women of the fire department once again, and we thank you, Mike. We thank Mike for coming on for this informative information. Moving on, because like I said, I don't want to hold you long. I did ask that Ms. Fry from the Marble Hill Houses management come along, and she has with her Bernard Manning, who was the assistant super. And my question to them, when it comes down to the door situation, I do notice that in this building and a couple of other buildings that I've visited, that the doors are left open, and sometimes the stairwell doors are propped open, even by personnel that are cleaning. When I go sometimes through the back exit in the basement, that door is propped open sometimes for long extended periods of time. And I guess that's so that the person that's in that little office back there that cleans can have egress and access. But is there a way to make sure, especially like I said, with the events of this last tragic fire, is there a way that we can make sure that these doors are closed if housing personnel can make sure that these hallway doors are kept closed and that the doors are not being left propped open.
Good evening, everybody.
Good
How's
evening.
everybody doing?
Good.
Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
All right, this is Bernie Manning. I just want to answer the questions that you just posed. In regards to the staff leaving doors open, I wasn't made aware of that prior to, but now that you have mentioned it, I will check to make sure that they are not leaving it open when they do their rundown of the building and their cleaning. Now, in regards to the stairwell doors that are being propped open by the tenants, that seems like that might be an ongoing thing. So it's kind of hard to manage if the tenants are coming in and they're leaving the doors propped open for whatever reason that they may have. But our caretakers, they run the buildings every day. They walk the building. And so if they do see something like that, they will address it, close the buildings, that is, or take whatever it is that's blocking the doors from closing properly out of the door so it won't keep it open. But it's like I said, it's a team effort. So because the tenants are doing it, maybe y'all can mention it during the Tenants Association meetings. We all will work on it from y'all end, and we'll work on it from our end. I also have the SOCs, the supervisors of caretakers, inspect the buildings on a regular basis as well.
Good. Thank you so much for that, because that is definitely a new initiative that this committee will be undertaking to make sure that our buildings meet the current standards for fire safety, so that there will not be another scene that we saw about 3 weeks ago. I also just to kind of switch things up, maybe if I know Mr. Edwards is on the line, the Tenant Association president. Maybe we can take Officer Kozo up on his offer to maybe have someone come in and address the fire situation, give fire safety tips sometime or another in the near future. So that's something that can be considered. Also, I don't know if Ms. Fry or Mr. Manning, when it comes down to the smoke alarms and the CO2 alarms, have all those been replaced with the new 10-year or at least the CO2 alarms updated, or is that something that the tenant has to request?
No, actually, it's not something that the tenants have to request. We started changing those out several years ago, as a matter of fact. Say it again?
To the combo.
Yeah, to the combo alarms. And so whenever we find that they have the old smoke detector and CO detector, because they were separate, still in the unit, then the maintenance can make a work order and they do switch them at that particular time. Say, for example, if they're doing an apartment inspection or if they're there for another repair, unrelated, we have to check the 5 Alive. That is the smoke combo, smoke CO combo, the apartment entrance door to make sure that it's self-closing, the window guard, and the fire safety notice, and the GFCI, the ground fault circuit interrupters that's in every unit, sometimes in the kitchen, most often in the bathroom. We check those every time we go into an apartment to do a repair or an inspection.
And
to make sure
just to piggyback off of Mr. Manning, if the maintenance worker notice that there's no CO2 combo, they have to install one right away.
Gotcha.
That's anytime they're doing any type of repair.
And that's regardless of how often, because this is what we find a lot of times. Maybe it's something else that y'all can address at the meeting, the tenant association meeting, that tenants remove them on a regular basis for whatever reason. Like the fire inspector was stating that his mother used to take it down sometimes. when she would be cooking and it would go off. Sometimes people take them down, they throw them out the window, they put them down somewhere and they never reinstall them. So we have to replace them every time we go in, and no matter how often it is. If we go in an apartment every week and it's missing every week, we have to change them every week, every time that we notice. What I ask my maintenance guys to do is take pictures of, just to safeguard themselves, to show that they have it attached to the work order that they're going there for, and have proof that they made the inspection and they found a working, or they installed a working smoke CO combo.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And moving on now, I have Tony Edwards here. I know that he is challenged right now, because I understand what that COVID thing does to you. So I don't want to have him talking too long. But there's also, there has been some issue, and maybe this is something that Mr. Manning or Ms. Fry can also address. There was some issues within this building and other buildings with heat complaints during the coldest part of the year. There was no heat, and I can attest to that fact because during that time I was homesick with COVID, and during the 3 coldest days during that time period, there was no heat. This committee, along with the entire community board, has worked hard to try to make sure that boilers are being fixed and upgraded. And my question is there some type of issue? Is there something that we need to do or something that we can assist with? Because during pandemic type of season, being in the cold is not good. And I can say this firsthand because it took a lot just for me to get warm during those cold 3 days. Not just when you're here in the house while you're awake, but while you're sleeping. It makes for a very uncomfortable night. So is there something that we can assist in, or is there any area that we can try to address? And like I said, this can be answered by any of you or Tony. I know that you had sent out information in regards to 311. So is there anything that we can do, like I said, as a committee or as a board that might can assist you so that things like this, like I said, on those very cold days does not happen?
Well, the only thing that I could suggest, at the moment is for everybody to flood the system. And that's one of the texts that I sent out. I believe I sent you one as well.
Yes.
Informing people to either try the 707 number or dial 311. And my belief is that the more reaction or more action that residents take to register a complaint, the more that housing and the way it's structured, the system is structured, the more numbers they see, I feel that that adds strength as to their response to ensure that the system is working. But currently, the development is actually undergoing an upgrade in its heating operations. Mobile is scheduled to receive 4 brand new boilers. There are actually 6 boilers that operate the system. 2 of the 6 boilers will be actually removed because from what I understand, their function really is for the hot water system. And with the upgrade, the hot water system is being set up in such a way where each individual building will have its own unit, hot water unit. This way, operated separately from the actual boiler system. So hopefully when there's a down or there's a malfunction, the whole system is not affected. So that's something that we look for in the future. This project is supposed to end around November 2023. That's the estimated date. Now, to actually get to your question, what more can you do? Just is not really upon Ms. Fry and her staff. The point is that our boilers are old, and yes, they require maybe monitoring, maybe a little bit more monitoring. But as of right now, it appears that the heating is working. You know, I don't know about you in your apartment, Ted, but I know here it's like very warm. But you know, other than that, like I said, I need the residents to make sure that they call in their complaint. So this way it's registered. Because one of the things that I also found out through the Manhattan Borough President's office that though residents have complained, they've complained to Assemblymember Dinowitz's office. They've also complained to the Manhattan Borough President's office. But as far as registering their complaint with NYCHR, I was informed that a lot of those complaints that was made to them directly were not actually made to NYCHR itself. So this way they have a complaint number that's recorded in the system. So that's important as well. Now, maybe Ms. Farad, she might have something to add to it, or Mr. Manning, but as far as that's what I have to add at this point.
Thank you, man.
Yes, I definitely want to keep putting in the work tickets. Every day I send the borough, the heating plant unit, all the open work tickets we got for hot water and heating on a daily basis so that they know. So they are aware of the problem. Hello?
Thank you.
Hello?
So much.
Yes.
Can you
Oh,
hear
can
me?
you hear me?
Yes, we heard you.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Thank you for that. Because, you know, we do have an elderly population that we deal with, like I said, as well as now during a pandemic season, we want to make sure that at minimum, we can provide the tenants with a warm place to be. So we definitely appreciate your efforts, Ms. Fry, Mr. Manning, in regards to the buildings, and of course, Mr. Edwards, and keeping everyone informed in regards to what we need to do in case there is no heat. So we just appreciate you guys' efforts in those areas. I have no new business, no old business to discuss, no new business to discuss, but I would like to open the floor now to Chairlady Spalter. We appreciate her for taking the time out to come on our meeting on this evening. And like I said, we appreciate this. I appreciate, I should say personally, this community board. They have in mass taken up the slack in certain areas while I was out sick. Like I said, the district office, they have been, you know, tremendous. So we just want to thank them directly for their assistance. Chairlady, would you like to say something?
Thank you. I'll say very little because I too am recovering from COVID. And if I talk too much, it makes me cough. All those breakthroughs, you know, it's just amazing.
Yeah.
I'd like to say how wonderful it is that we had the meeting tonight and that the office, and I did get a very important email from the city, from the mayor's office about relief. Now that the January 15th, the moratorium for evictions is over, the city has put together a big program of support and where to call and how to get what, and you know, for tenants to be able to deal with this. And we're hoping perhaps that we can get them for your next meeting, for your February Housing Committee meeting. And I've asked the office to post it on the information on social media, send it to our list of housing groups, civic groups that could pass the information that they're offering to try to get the word out there. So we're doing that, and hopefully they'll be able to come to a housing committee meeting. They've put together a very comprehensive program to deal with eviction. So happy about that. So that's just what I want to report.
Thank you, Chairlady. We appreciate, like I said, your efforts to assist this committee in the areas of housing, because as you know, within our scope, within the Kingsbridge, the Spuyten Duyvil, the other various areas that we serve, most of our constituents are in the lower income part of that bracket, and they would definitely be affected by this moratorium ending. So we definitely want to get the word out. If any assistance can be offered
Yes, we
to
will.
them. Yeah, definitely so. Once again, thank you for that.
Great to see you.
David, did you want to, I saw you come on, did you want to ask a question or have a statement?
Yes, well, I just wanted to, sort of check with you about soliciting ideas for capital and expense budget priorities for fiscal year 2024. That really should be starting this month, but to you, Mr. Chair, to have you solicit from your members ideas starting this month, but to actually get down to putting together the two lists next month.
Gotcha. Will do. Thank you for that reminder.
What will be helpful here is that all the committee chairs will be getting feedback on anything that you asked for last year. For the 23, the list that you put in last April, the city agencies will be responding. So what every committee will do is we'll look at the responses to see if you want to put that same request in again, or maybe it's been filled, or that kind of thing. So we're waiting for that feedback, and the city is waiting for it.
I would encourage you not to limit your creativity to last year's ideas. That should help you help guide you in sort of mid-course corrections, but encourage your committee members to be as creative as possible, and then the committee as a whole will discuss and prioritize them. But
I mean, it's a starting point. It's something that you put it in. You want to see whether it was fulfilled or not. But really, that's
Laura, I beg to differ here.
Yeah.
The whole idea is this is a new cycle, and whatever we may learn from OMB, hopefully in the coming week, which we may not, but whatever we learn from OMB might have an influence on what priorities are developed. But the committee should feel free to come up with whatever the members want, and it's not dependent on fiscal year 23.
Gotcha. Definitely will. I do have 3 of our members here tonight, Ms. Reyes, Ms. Pardo, and Ms. Stella. I will open the floor up to them if they want to ask me questions or have any statements. We will definitely be talking about this. The month is far spent, but I will figure out a way to just speak with them either collectively on an individual basis, just to try to get some of those ideas at least on the table, and then make sure, like you said, to use our creativity. I know one of the things that we did stress last year was the boiler situation for Marble Hill and for the Independence, and so these things are currently in the making. So now we can be a little bit more, like you said, a little more freer to explore other options. Now that those things, I'm not sure. I have to find out about Fort Independence, but I'm sure if Marble Hill is being taken care of, Fort Independence has also started their situation with their boiler replacements and updates. So, like you said, we want to get a little bit more creative and just look at certain areas that may be lacking. Not just within NYCHA, but in our areas of scope, as a whole.
That's right. I mean, the Housing Committee represents all of Community Board 8, so it's not. You're right. It's not just NYCHA. Whatever you folks think.
Right. So what you're saying is that that Marble Hill will have its boiler replaced. What we proposed is actually going forward.
Yes, from what Mr. Edwards was saying tonight, that we are scheduled here at Marble Hill to have 4 of the 6 boilers replaced, and that the work should be completed. It's earmarked to be completed by November of 2023. So hopefully that will indeed be the case.
And just to add, excuse me for cutting in, just to add, the work is actually being accomplished or is in the process as we speak this evening. They've already worked on buildings number 9 and number 7 as far as the hot water, replacing the hot water system. And so I believe building 3, that's the next building on the agenda or on their listing. All right, the exact start date for that project, I do not know at this time, but hopefully when we meet again next month, I'll have a little bit more information to share with you.
And then so you said 4 of 6, will the remaining 2 be serviced or replaced as well, or that's an additional ask?
No, from what I understand, we do have 6 boilers. That's what has up and running right now. The newer boilers, which the engineers feel that there's no need for actually 6 for heat. And then what is the 4 newer boilers that they put in will be sufficient enough to operate the buildings as far as heat. The 2 boilers that will be decommissioned, they will be basically used for the hot water system. And as I mentioned, the way now things are going to be engineered, each building will be independently run with its own hot water system. So there will be no need for those 2 additional boilers for the hot water system, the way that it's set up now. So keep your fingers crossed.
Yeah, I feel your
Definitely.
pain. With an old boiler system, like one that we have too, it's all you do all day, every day. So I feel for you and your team, like constantly troubleshooting and trying to correct things until the full replacement takes place. So Godspeed.
Thank you. Thank you.
This has been the community board, the housing committee's #1 priority for several years now. So it is very exciting that this is actually happening. This is great news, Tony.
Yes, we definitely appreciate all their efforts, to make this happen, and to make sure that the process goes forward. Because it's definitely, like I said, that should be the basics of what tenants receive when they're living in these housing developments, is that they're ensured to have a warm place to stay during the wintertime. So we definitely want to appreciate all that they're doing, all that management is doing to facilitate these upgrades and replacements as well. I don't know if Ms. Pardo or Ms. Reyes would like to have anything to say, if they would have any concerns or questions. I would open the floor to you now before we adjourn.
Hi, this is Julie here. I would just say that I'll wait until the next meeting when this is on the agenda and we have a copy of our last request. And I side with Laura's recommendations, because if we don't put it again for the whatever year the proposal is, and the work isn't completed, because they've promised us things for many years. And my understanding is if it's not on there and we take it as is, then when you do put it back on the agenda, you're starting from the bottom. So I would just wait until our next meeting with the agenda, with this being on the agenda, so that we can have time to think about it and look at what we requested in the past and look for the future.
Got it. Yeah, in my thinking, it's not my desire to take that off the table with our request, but because we know that there is work being done, as David had said, it comes down to the prioritization of what needs to be done. Not so much moving it off the list, but maybe now it might not be our first priority. There may be something else that we can think about. Like I said, that affects other areas that needs to be done. As long as this item can yet stay on the table, it just may not be our number one priority because we do know that the work is being done currently.
Exactly, as long as it stays on the list.
Yes.
And it's put on the agenda so that we can have a discussion on it.
Definitely will.
I definitely respect what Julie's saying. I was just curious with Mr. Edwards here, or sort of Ted from the conversation with FDNY. Are there any recommendations? You know, I know that the recent fire is top of mind for everyone, but are there any recommendations that we would want to put on that list to evaluate at our next meeting to better equip at least definitely in some of the NYCHA buildings, but then do we want to look at other buildings that, you know, fire safety, closing doors and ensuring, you know, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I think it's, as you know, we said it has to be a way where we kind of brainstorm to see exactly what areas we want to concentrate on. Because it's not just, like I said, it's not just a Marble Hill issue. It's a housing issue in general. And we want to make sure that other tenement buildings, they are also compliant with this close the door rule, that they too have some type of fire safety, whether it be pamphlets, whether it be some type of tenant meeting, that they too will figure out a way to have tenant meetings in regards to fire safety, that they're compliant with their CO2 alarms as well as smoke alarms, so that the tenants can be safe. So that's of the utmost importance. I think that preventing scenes like we saw 10 days ago, at least for me, at the top of the list. We also saw, and it just dawned on me, and I wish Michael was still with us. We just saw in the east side of the Bronx on Fox, an entire condominium blew up and killed a tenant. And we're looking into what the cause of that was and what can be done to prevent, if it was indeed gas, what can be done to prevent things of that nature. So that's also another area. But we definitely want to make sure that fire safety is at the top of our agenda during this winter season and moving forward, honestly, so that we can prevent loss of life in our area. But definitely, Julie, this will be on our agenda for February. And I would ask that, since we do have 3 of the members with us, that you guys come up with anything that you guys can think of. You know, there's no idea of thought that's too small, because, like I said, we want to be creative. But this issue of heating will not come off the list, but we will just consider different prioritization of the agenda, you know, of the ask for fiscal year 24. Okay, Tracy, is there anything that you want to say, or, you know, because if not, then
Oh, just, I'm thinking, but no, not at the moment. I have nothing
Okay.
to, okay?
Gotcha. Thanks so much to Tracy, to Julie, and to Margaret for coming on tonight. This is not a one-person show. I could not do this without these men and women. They have been tremendous help to me, and even when I was on the board, how they worked with the previous chairman. I just want to personally thank them for the time that they dedicate to the issue of housing, not just in Community Board 8, but within the city, because they do reach a lot of people and they assist a lot of people with their work. So I want to thank them for being a part of this committee and for the work that they do to make sure that housing issues are at the top of the list when it comes down to prioritization in the city. And if there is nothing else, once again, thank all of you for coming on tonight. Want to thank Lee, of course. She is always a wealth of information, so we definitely want to thank her once again for coming on. Joseph De La Cruz from the Riverdale Press, thank you again. Ms. Brown, Ms. Edwards, of course, thank you once again to Ms. Fry and Mr. Manning for coming on, and of course, community board members, David Gelman, as well as our chair lady, Laura Spalter. And we continue to hope and pray for her recuperation because we know that this COVID is an insidious virus and it attacks you regardless, but it's important. I was talking to someone today at work, and the way I felt, I am fully vaccinated. I'm not boosted, but I am fully vaccinated. And I couldn't imagine what it would have meant for me to be that sick and not have been vaccinated. I'm sure it would have went another way. So I just want to stress the need. You know, I can't tell you what to do in regards to religious issues or whatever, but do your due diligence. Don't fall for the conspiracy theorists, but really consider it, because it will not stop you from getting COVID, but it will stop you from having to deal with the harshest part of the disease, and it can indeed save your life. So with that being said, we are going to adjourn. The time is now 8:19. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Any second?
I second, and I wish you all well.
Thank you so much. Have a good night, everybody, and appreciate you again for taking your time
Great
out
to
of your
see
schedule
you.
to come on.
Thank you, Ted.
Have a nice
Thank you. We
Thank
should
you.
all
Have a good
be
evening.
healthy. We should all be
Night.
healthy. Thank you.
Yes, everyone stay
Safe.
healthy.
Yes.
Safe, warm, and healthy. And
Yes.
remember,
Yes.
remember the family of Officer Rivera. We're
Yes.
having his funeral on Friday at St. Patrick's. You know, this could have been any of our son or brother at the age of 22. You know, this young man had not even had a chance to live, but he sought a life of service to this city, and it cost him his life. So we just want to remember his family during this time and going forward. Have a good evening, everyone.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Evening.
Good night.
Good night.